and all great things must come to an end. This would be my kind of final tutorial in the Ableton 9 beginner course. Keyword beginner. And what you should be doing is focusing on making loops of your music that you want to make. The main part of the track would be sufficient, and it's more, to kind of go in your own way. I know that sounds kind of lame. I wish I could, I wish I was more articulate to teach, like, how to make epic Skrillex beats and, what people want to know. But, so eventually, with lots of practice and some knowledge and some great sample packs, you will get a loop that sounds like this. I made this on my stream 2 nights ago, and generally it's like a puzzle. Each kind of piece, you have your kick, you have your bass line, you have a simple loop from a sample pack creator, you have a clap, and this is basically encompassing everything that we learned. And when you get to this point, you should focus on your processing, and that's very important. Your processing is understanding EQ work, which is a big subject and very difficult to kind of comprehend for the beginner, but just play around. It's like low sounds to high sounds, and stick to one EQ, preferably parametric, and to make your sounds kind of fit and to give yourself some headroom naturally. I'll just bring you through it. So the kick, it's just a looped kick, nothing too important. I'll solo it, why not? And I took off a bit. I always do it this way. You don't have to, but I always do, to give the kick perceivably more oomph at the end stage, taking out things that I feel are unimportant to club pressure. There's that, and just a simple third-party synth, hitting initialize and just creating something on your own. It's basically a saw wave and a filter with a bit of filter drive, and that's the bass line. Yeah, and I took that, added some color with some saturation, just simple drive, and I cleaned out some of the areas that are kind of unimportant and compressed it slightly. So, right, and you'll get it. I started with a loop. This is how I started. No processing, just to get the track going. Nothing wrong with using loops. You should use them as often as you want, or as little as you want. Typically, I'll use something like this to put a groove in my head, and I build around it. So you're basically using it as a reference. So nothing comes out of thin air. So that's basically what you do. Clap, simple clap, didn't have enough space, so I gave it space by throwing a reverb on it. Simple, right? And some percussive kind of shuffly bits with some delay. And yeah, I guess I should go over and reiterate a few common problems you may run into and what you should look out for. CPU usage. This is not actual CPU usage. This is Ableton's processing threshold thing. It doesn't relate to CPU at all. It relates to your buffer and a number of things, and it incorporates your sound card and your drivers and all that fun stuff and how many tracks are going on. This is not a real-time CPU thing. A faster CPU helps, but this factors into a lot of things. If you're getting a lot, if your CPU is kind of maxing out, what you can do is you can freeze certain tracks, and generally, say if I had this and it's it's a Rompler synth, and it's crazy and it's going nuts, and they have lots of effects, and I have Fab Filter and Saturn and all that. What you can do is you can right click on this and freeze it, and you get that thing. And what this does is this creates a temporary audio track, and basically it renders out this one track with the effects and everything. So say, oh yeah, I'm not going to use this anymore, the processing is killing me. So what this does is this frees up the processing. It's the same sound, right? What the hell's that? That was weird. I thought someone was knocking on my door. That was weird. Anyway, generally, yeah, freezing, you can do that. But say, oh, I wanna edit it or edit an effect. I go unfreeze, and then it's back, and I can edit all these parameters, right? So you can do that. You can freeze it again. Let's say that. But then you want it to just render up this one track, and you could solo and then render and then drop it in. But that's a waste of time. So what you do is you right click and you flatten. And flatten for Photoshop users is basically the same thing. Flattens it, bam, flattens it to an audio track, and you have no more processing taking up your CPU cycles. So that's really good. I do that sometimes with leads. Leads get like really intense with lots of reverb and delay, especially if you're using like a convolution reverb or like a modeled reverb. It's a lot of CPU. You flatten it with that. Another thing people run into is Live has run out of memory and must close, or something along those lines. You get that when, see, we have our kick here, and that's why I was drilling in consolidating. So if you have a kick and we have that, right? Each one of these clips is kind of stored in the memory. So if you have a lot of these clips, it'll use it up a lot. So what you do is, you select you select like a bar, and then you consolidate, and then you can loop it over, and it frees it up. So like each clip, especially if you have them loaded into the RAM, I don't have to because I have an SSD. But if you have them loaded into the RAM, each of these load into the RAM, and your RAM goes crazy. Unless you're using 64-bit, you really wouldn't need to worry about that. So that was freezing and flattening, yeah, and consolidating. Those are some of your tools that you can use to free up and prevent, running out of RAM or running out of CPU. If you have a powerful computer and you don't use a whole lot of effects, that's fine. But this is also valuable if you just want to render something out into an audio track, and that's always positive, and then you're good to go. And then you can drag it to like another project or whatever. What else? Panning. Panning is another thing. Jumping back to EQing. So you get your loop, you EQ it to make it sound good. You are reducing the frequencies a lot of the times instead of enhancing them, which you can enhance them too, but not that often, because a lot of the times people will want their bass to be loud, so they'll EQ and they'll raise the low end up. It's like, okay, well, that drowns out the kick, so I'm going to go to the kick and raise the low end of the kick, and you get like a lot of sounds jumbling up, and it sounds bad. And then the frequencies start canceling each other out. So you say, okay, well, let's just use, extreme compression, and like this is a big mistake. So you don't do that. If you have a kick and you have a bass, you want the bass to come through, you lower the frequency of the kick so the bass can kind of poke through here, or in the sub bass, or you sidechain to give each sound their own way to kind of poke through. Another thing you can do, if you have percussion, if you have this, and you have something like a clap, and they're kind of in the same area, you pan them left and right, and that solves the conflict of their frequency in a magical way. And the goal is to have everything have their own sound. So you can listen to this. I'm not extremely perfect at this, but you can listen. You can play this and you can pick apart each sound, you know. Everything's there, and you can hear everything, and it's a magical thing. What else? Filtering, panning. I went over that. So generally, start with any sound, loop it, depending on your style. Add a kick, and just go to town. And what you should be doing is you should start with loops and make your loops sound good. And once that is good, it's all about confidence, really. When you get confident with the main part of your track, then you can arrange and build out and make a full track, and then you can get into mastering, and mastering is a lifelong journey. So hope I've been a good introduction to Ableton Live. I recommend it to anyone. It's good for beginners and happy fun people, and hope you enjoyed it. And